starting or me? Me?
You got it.
Oh, boy.
All right, welcome into the pilot episode of the currently no-named podcast. This is Khalil. My name is Brett. Behind the camera, we have our boy Luke. And we are going to talk a lot about Tennessee Titans. We're both fans. All three of us are fans of the Tennessee Titans. And so we want to kind of catch you up on some things that's happened. We want to obviously have our reactions to coaching carousel, free agency moves, and then even later on in more episodes, we'll talk about the draft and things like that. So it's going to be an awesome show. We're excited about this podcast getting started, and we hope you enjoy it.
Nice. That's still open.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's get started.
Start.
Put your care. I have it up for you.
Oh man, I'm trying to read it. I can't. I have it right here, but.
Oh, your eyes are old.
Yeah, well, no, I can still see fine. Okay. All right, so the first thing that we both wanted to just kind of get on here and talk about is the coaching carousel and reaction to the firing or parting of ways of Vrabel and the Titans, and then also talk about Brian Callahan and that hire. And so, Khalil, what was your first reaction to hearing Vrabel that there was parting of ways?
I think my first reaction was probably, actually, I guess towards the tail end of the season and a lot during the season, I think everyone was kind of getting a little sour on Vrabel. Always believed he was a good coach, phenomenal at raising the floor of guys and really making them play a lot better than what you maybe saw or expected out on the field. But I love Vrabel, and so my immediate reaction was just to have this breakdown or this meltdown. It's like, what's going to happen? Didn't expect this. Where are we going to go from here? So it was a little weird at first, and I didn't know what to expect. But I think you were. How did you feel about it? You were kind of on that.
Yeah, I was somewhat shocked by the news, but I also just from you were hearing stuff about him wanting more control and things like that. Obviously, the season didn't go well. And so I kind of personally, I thought, okay, they're going to give him one more year. They're going to give him one more year with all this cap space and with the roster turnover, and give him and Rand one more year to kind of work together and see what they could do. And I think that it come to the point where Amy Adams-Strunk and Mike Vrabel just couldn't get on the same page. He was wanting more control. And so I think Vrabel was loved by most of the players. There's obviously a handful that are.
There's going to be guys who just, you don't vibe with and it doesn't go well with. And we've kind of heard a little bit afterwards him leaving, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, but most of them loved him and played hard for him. And, if you look back on his career as the coach and what he did there after, we had all those injuries, back-to-back years. We led the league in the most injuries. He still somehow got the 1 seed in the division or in the AFC. And so there's all that stuff that he did. And so I think he is a good coach. I think, he was needed for us at the time. But I definitely believe there's a shift in philosophy that's taking place. Yeah. And obviously we'll get into that too. But so yeah, I was shocked by it, but at the same time, I felt like it was the right move at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, there was some really looking back on it, even when you're in there too, there's really questionable, hires or guys with control, within the coaching staff. Where for a while there, it's we had Todd Downing for a little bit.
DUI, buddy.
And that was rough for a while. And then even after that, we had Kelly, and then it just kind of a little bit of the same. But also when you look at the roster, that having as much as depletion as you could really see, offensive line, just kind of going, just not in a really good spot. So it's hard for an offensive coordinator to be put in a position to succeed, and it's hard for a rookie quarterback or any quarterback in that sense to actually succeed in that point too. So it was, the injuries were a big part of some of his success or reason to keep him, but also it's at some point we had to get over the hump, and we just never really could.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't blame Vrabel for wanting control. I mean, John Robinson had screwed up so many times with draft picks and trading away A.J. Brown. Like, literally, that might have to go down as the dumbest thing that has ever happened in the history of the Tennessee Titans.
Well, you look at how free agency's gone. We'll get to this point later on, but you look how free agency has gone. We picked up Calvin Ridley, obviously, and then all you see on Twitter is like, oh, they'll pick up this 29-year-old receiver for all this money, $23 million or something along those lines, but they won't go and pay A.J. Brown, which was a whole different regime.
Yeah, whole new regime, different, totally different.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what's crazy is, and I think Vrabel was like kind of wanting that control. Almost, it's like he lost trust, and he's like, y'all are bringing me these practice squad guys, and I'm having to try to win with them.
Yeah.
Like, I want actual talent. Obviously his coaching philosophy is different too. And it's kind of that old school, everybody says the Patriot, Bill Belichick way of doing things. And, run first, pass later, and that worked when we had Derrick Henry. You could literally just ride him, but you could only ride him so far in the playoffs before a quarterback had to win you a game.
Yeah.
And so we kind of, you run into that stuff. And so obviously Vrabel had his good moments. He had his bad moments. But ultimately, it was just that time. It was time to rip the Band-Aid off and bring in old Brian Callahan.
Man, you told me. I'm sorry. You said the quarterback had to win the game. It just gave me flashbacks when we went to the Titans game. Watched this. I'm sorry. Watched the Bengals play this year. It was bad. It was rough. Probably one of the most rough experiences I've had. Huh?
I was at that game.
You was at that game? Oh,
Yeah.
crap. I didn't know.
We were all there in misery.
It was when we were the 1 seed. Yeah, I was there.
I was getting yelled at by drunk Cincinnati Bengals fans. My other buddy was trying to fight Cincinnati Bengals fans.
They were trying to throw beer on people. They were throwing beer on people for sure. Ryan Tannehill's throwing 3 interceptions.
Like, my gosh.
It couldn't have gone worse than that.
Yeah, I mean, 3 interceptions, and I blamed a lot of that on Todd Downing. And then that also comes back to Vrabel and who he hires and hires his buddies, and I didn't like that aspect a lot of the times. And
I mean, now being in the position that we are, where it's still there's a lot of wait and see type of things, of course, but like looking back on it, like you're kind of glad that he didn't get more control. I just don't know if I believe in that philosophy or that like type of system. Of course, it worked with Belichick, but that's like how many opportunity or how many other people can actually do that and be successful with it.
It didn't work with Bob in Houston.
Yeah, we don't see that that situation work in like it used to. Just with the Belichick, you don't see that in other places.
Right.
I guess you could say like, there's always this separation of powers and this balance of powers, and it's all about having relationships, being on the same page, all those type of things. And I just don't think Vrabel and Rand really meshed.
Yeah, well, like the word you've heard, and as a Titans fan, if you're watching this, you've heard the word collaboration. Like, that's the big word, and that was something that when Rand was hired, it was like everything he said in his first press conference was, well, I'm going to collaborate with Mike Vrabel, and we're collaborating. Hey, we're going to work as a team. We're going to collaborate, and I just feel like it didn't work. Like, the collaboration didn't work. And so now I think, and just from just early things that you're hearing, even from players who are now Titans, who are former players elsewhere, you're really seeing that around the building. You're seeing high energy and people working together, and just like the process in which they're getting these players is just, it seems like they're all in tune and working together. And so that's exciting. And obviously Brian Callahan, the new head coach, and we'll kind of transition and talk about him. Former Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator, QB's coach. He didn't call the plays, but obviously had a lot of impact on the offense. He worked constantly with Joe Burrow. Obviously, his career, he's worked with a lot of different quarterbacks. And so, Khalil, you can kind of talk more about that. But he is somewhat of a quarterback whisperer. And, what does the Titans have right now that that they feel like has a chance of really hitting, and that's a rookie quarterback in Will Levis. They believe that Will Levis can take these right steps, and they feel like Brian Callahan is the right man for the job. And I honestly, personally, my reaction to this is I feel like out of all the head coaches that were hired, we got the best one. I truly believe that the best fit for the Tennessee Titans, I think, is Brian Callahan. And so I was excited about that move and super excited about the future of the Titans. I think there's going to be a new philosophy, a new way of thinking, and so definitely excited about that.
Yeah, I like the way you talked about how it was the best fit, best hire for the Titans, even with a lot of great other candidates. Talk about a Mike Macdonald, who is obviously at the top of the list for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Bobby Slowick, who is at the top of the list, and even that way for some Titans people who are really like what the Houston Texans were doing, even opening up that game against the Browns, and everyone was pretty much on the bandwagon hopping on for Bobby Slowick right after that game, but. I think you kind of had a great point right there, and I don't think I've heard that point when you say that it was the best hire for the Titans, because you think about Will Levis, second-year quarterback, a guy who has a lot of awesome traits, strong arm, big body, is able to stand in the pocket, stand tall in the pocket, can use his legs, has a huge arm, is super aggressive, very intense, plays with a lot of tenacity, which I actually love. So much. Even watching that Dolphins game, man, that huge comeback, that was an awesome game, and I think an awesome moment for him and that team, and kind of the year that we had last year. Just looking back on it, but when you have a head coach that has such a pedigree, I feel like around the league, he obviously has a great ties, with his dad, bringing him in as well too, but just playing a different, or not coaching in different systems. He coached with Coach Peyton Manning, Coach Tim Tebow, Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford. So he's been around a lot of different quarterbacks, has been in a lot of different systems. Not necessarily as if he's, the offensive coordinator calling the plays, but still having an integral part in, structuring the offense, working with the QBs, being a QB's coach even then in a few situations too, even with Matthew Stafford and Derek Carr. I feel like that's kind of the perfect person to bring in with the Will Levis, who's entering his second year, and you're surrounding him with a team that has some expectations or some really win-now players. But when you have a coach like that who understands so many different systems and has been worked with so many quarterbacks, I feel like you have a guy who can really support Will Levis in that second, third year that's going to come up too. So
yeah, and I think the biggest concern with Brian Callahan was that he didn't call plays. That was always popping up. Well, he's never called plays. He's not called plays, and I think guys have been hired that didn't call plays.
Everyone has come from that Shanahan tree. Kyle Shanahan is calling plays.
Kyle Shanahan's calling plays, but these guys still get hired. And you got Mike McDaniels. Is it Mike McDaniels?
Mike McDaniel.
In Miami.
Yeah.
Because we were just talking about Mike McDonald, so now I'm getting confused.
Yeah,
Mike McDaniel, he didn't call plays. He's calling plays there, and their offense is one of the top offenses. I mean, how many points did they score one game last year? 70? What are we...
Now, and of course, you can say, well, that offense has Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, super fast, a lot of physically gifted players, but someone has to put him in that situation.
Yeah.
And obviously, being one of the more innovative offenses in the league, or probably the most innovative offense in the league,
yeah.
It's okay.
It's not like they can run 4 verts the whole game. I mean, they have to be creative.
Yeah, that's not how football works, right? So that's it's okay that Brian didn't call plays, but I feel like his coaching experience is such a good thing that you can really rely on and kind of count on in a way without seeing it yet. And just, I think, feel really good about.
And I mean, you got to think he's had his hand on a lot of different offensive schemes and how it's ran. And Zach Taylor even said as much there in Cincinnati. Brian was daily in there, and they would talk about game plans. He said, "Yeah, I would call the plays, but he was an integral part of everything we did offensively, and obviously being the go-to guy for Joe Burrow on the side. I mean, that was what Brian Callahan did. So that's what's exciting about having a team where we're changing the philosophy. Obviously, you got Rand coming in, and he gets to hire his guy to work with. They can go ahead and, you see the free agencies and things like that, and they can start changing the philosophy and how the Titans have been ran. And Brian can come in with that handprint on it. He could be the quarterback whisperer. He can talk to Levis, and they can learn from each other and kind of build that relationship. It's better to do it, I think, now because obviously with Levis coming in the second round, you've got one less year you work with before you get an extension. So I think the move was at the right time, and I think we got the right guy.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important parts about a coach, like one of the things I'm looking for when I'm looking at a coach and a new hire, or just in any situation where I'm like trying to see, oh, this is a good sign of a really good coach, is I'm looking at, you know, how are they going to coach their players? You know, are they all about the system? Are they all about we got to run this system no matter what, no matter who we're bringing in, or are they going to adjust the system to the players? And I think that's kind of the theme he has, and that he's coming in with. Like, he's going to adjust to his players. He wants to set them up, you know, to succeed. He's not just going to throw them out there and make them do things that they're not really good at. You know, of course, you work to get to those things and, you know, get better and improve. You know, but he wants to put them in a position to succeed. And I think it's a huge thing, especially when you're getting to a quarterback who has a lot to prove. And I think he wants to prove those things and has that chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, and he's brought in a great staff. You know, that's the other thing, like you worry about. But like he knows people. Between him and his dad, they know a lot of people. They've been around different coaching circles. And they bring in not only, you know, did he bring in his dad? He's a Hall of Fame offensive line coach.
Yeah, like I told you this a while ago. Anyone who they bring in free agency, who they're going to draft in an NFL draft, anyone who they're considering, I am okay with. I have nothing to say, because if Bill Callahan approves, what am I going to say? What am I going to do now?
Yeah, are you going to disagree with Bill Callahan?
No, so I have all the confidence in the world when it comes to
disagree with O-line Jesus?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you're?
I have all the confidence in the world when it comes to if they're interested in someone or going to draft them, let's go for it. I'm good to go.
So he gets the best O-line coach, and which is his dad. Which is a weird dynamic. That's got to be pretty exciting too.
So I listened to his interview with Peter Traeger from like a year ago, but I think that's just one of the more exciting things he was actually looking forward to, and like eventually wanted to do is actually coach with his dad.
Yeah, and then so you bring him in, and then you get Denard Wilson as your defensive coordinator, who was probably in talks for in the next couple of years being a head coach, you know, and he was NFLPA. He was voted one of the top assistants in the league. He's a secondary coach. Had 2 top 5 secondaries, obviously first in Philly, then last year in Baltimore. And you bring him in, he was highly sought after. You know, multiple teams wanted him to be their DC, and so when we get him, you know, and so that's exciting. And honestly, you know, one of the things we're going to talk about is like your favorite, you know, assistant coach hiring. What was your favorite? And it's so hard between those two. Like, I don't know if I could pick, but those two have to be the top of my list as far as guys we brought in, coaches we brought in.
Yeah, I think, you know, personally, maybe leaning towards defense. I was a defensive guy. I played football in college, and I played linebacker. I played football or defense for as long as I can remember. But like after watching him and seeing, you know, what he believes in, where he's been, what he's like gone through as a coach, and you know, he used to be a scout at some point, so like even that, being able to like broaden his horizon and his perspective as like how he evaluates players, you know, how he can work within the building, within ins and outs, and, you know, really actually be able to like structure a game plan. Like I was just listening to an interview, like he has been preparing for, you know, being a DC, being a head coach for like 10 years now. Like, this has been in the making. Like, this is something he's always wanted.
Yeah.
So he's an impressive man that way. He's coached with going back to, he's coached with St. Louis. He coached with coach under Jeff Fisher. Actually, yeah. Coached with St. Louis, the Jets, Eagles, obviously, Baltimore. So he's been in a lot of different systems. He's bringing in a lot of experience, learning from a lot of different people. And he's also just been with a lot of like different perspectives when it comes to just defensive guys. But I think they've all been successful where he's been. You know, so that's a lot to hang your hat on, and it makes me feel really good being a defensive guy, and, you know, knowing how important that is, especially in the league and in the division that's getting tougher when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. So a defensive, you got to have that defensive guy who's really going to bring the energy, which he does, and it's really going to be, you know, be really good on that end.
Yeah, and I think the most underwhelming coaching hire was probably Nick Holtz, and I think that's just because it was Jacksonville, and he was in Jacksonville. He didn't like call the plays there. He was like, he obviously was like the passing game coordinator, and the Jags passing game wasn't that great down the stretch. And so they're like, oh, but the same way that Brian Callahan hadn't called plays, you could say the same about Nick Holtz. Like, yes, he's a passing game coordinator, but that doesn't mean that every time passes don't work or they're not passing the ball well in a game means it's all Nick Holtz's fault. You know what I mean? Like, he probably didn't have that much say.
If you're watching Jacksonville, like they struggled quite a bit. Trevor Lawrence got injured, but like even him being able to not be able to find a connection with Calvin Ridley, offensive line struggling, them not being able to run the ball. Like, it just kind of became like a dumpster fire for them last year, which is what no one really expected.
Right, but I think, and we'll talk about free agencies, but obviously Calvin Ridley he had some glowing things to say about Nick Holtz. So I think it just depends on who you talk about or talk to, rather like what their opinion is on Nick Holtz. And so I'm going to give him a chance. I trust Brian Callahan, and I trust what Calvin Ridley's saying about him. I think that a lot of it was just how they didn't utilize their players all that well. And then Trevor Lawrence also had some games where he was just like missing people. He probably should have had 6 to 8 more touchdowns in the year, but he just missed 3.
Maybe just to Calvin Ridley too.
Yeah, just to really, yeah. And so he just missing throws. And so, you saw that. I mean, I think there was the last game of the year where the Titans beat them. He threw a pass, and he threw it right to Sean Murphy-Bunting, like right to him. And I could see it plain as day. It was like, what was he doing? And that was kind of what I feel like the Jaguars are dealing with kind of throughout the season. And I don't think that's as much on Nick Holtz. So as underwhelming as it was, I'm okay with just like letting it ride out. Let's see what happens. So because he's obviously got some experience too. So let's get into free agency. And some of the players that the Titans signed was Calvin Ridley, receiver, Chidobe Awuzie, cornerback, Lloyd Cushenberry, center, Sadiq Charles, a guard. Mason Rudolph is obviously backup quarterback. Kenneth Murray is a linebacker. They traded for Sneed, L'Jarius Sneed, as a cornerback. They also re-signed Nick Folk, the kicker, Morgan Cox, the long snapper, and NWI, the receiver. And I just want to say this, NWI is like what is he? Like he can never die. Like he's a
staple.
Yeah. He's like a cockroach.
He's like a cockroach.
Yeah, he's like a cockroach, yeah.
I like him.
That's perfect.
I'm not really going to equate him to a cockroach, but
Yeah, but like if you're playing that game with the bomb and stuff, if you're a cockroach, you don't get blown up. So that's kind of like NWI. Yeah, I like NWI too. Especially as like the 4th or 5th receiver. He's so versatile. He can play any position. But anyways, let's talk about that. Obviously, the Titans were big spenders. We knew they would be with $80 million in cap space. So, but before we could talk about the exciting things, before we talk about everything that was new, the king has left the building.
Rip.
And I, for one, was ultimately sad. I'm disgusted to see him in a Ravens uniform.
What are you gonna say?
But I understand that it was time, just because of the philosophy change, the coaching changes, and guys that he came in with were now leaving. And just with the trade rumors, even last season, I just felt like it was probably going to come to an end. And then obviously his emotional speech at the end of the last game. So felt like it was coming. Definitely sad about it. And I don't want to see him in a Ravens uniform. But it is what it is.
No, it is what it is. And Henry, obviously a legend, obviously will be missed. It sucks to see. But honestly, I mean, if anything, I'm glad he's been in a better situation. Not a better situation, but just in a good situation.
Yeah, watch your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, from the last couple of years, it's a much better situation. But it's good to see him in a good situation and in a place he can thrive in, and in a place where he's needed, and he's gonna really show people, that he's still the same guy. He's still going to be doing some of the same things, and he's going to be really take back that number one spot in the league for.
Yeah, I think he's still 15. I mean, I still think he's getting 1,500 yards a year. Like, I really still think he's there.
Yeah, I mean, they got to get their offensive line, the Baltimore Ravens, in order.
He don't need no offensive line. What's he been running behind, bro?
He obviously
And he still had how many yards?
Yeah, exactly. So imagine what he's going to have, if they actually have one. So, like,
2K again? Not in the Ravens
Obviously,
uniform.
they have Lamar over there. I think he's just going to help them actually establish an identity from what they didn't have, especially watching the Chiefs game from the divisional last year. But it's a good situation for him, and obviously.
It's kind of weird how teams are so different. Like, the Titans ran the ball too much. The Ravens threw the ball too much, and they couldn't rely on the running game. The Titans relied too much on the running game and couldn't throw the ball. So you kind of get that difference. But yeah, I think Henry is still. He's just built different. Like, he's a machine. Like, I just don't think he's slowing down anytime soon. I think he's definitely got a few years left, and with Lamar running like he does, and they'll still have like multiple backs in their system. Like, he's not going to just wear down. But I think he's he's still got a few years left for sure. But anyways, forget the Ravens. Love the king though. Let's talk about your most surprising move free agency that the Titans made. The most surprising one, like the shocker. Like, oh my gosh, did that just happen?
No, it was the first one. Hold on. Oh my gosh, like most surprising.
Yeah.
Oof. I'm gonna go. I think it's Tony Pollard for me. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Tony Pollard was the most shocking.
I think so. Well, at a certain point, when you talk about Snead, obviously that's super surprising. But there was just at a certain point there was just so much smoke out there. So many people talking about it, and not much of a big market for Snead. It's like maybe this can actually happen. I think Calvin Ridley might be the other one as well. That was a little weird.
Yeah, that one's mine.
Especially being a divisional type of guy, an older guy as well. So we'll see how that works out with the contract. But even then, still not a bad contract. We need a receiver. Levis needs a receiver. It makes sense. We have the money to spend. I just think I guess I'd say Tony Pollard just because I had so many aspirations for Spears coming into the second year, and it feels somewhat redundant. Maybe Tony Pollard a little bit more explosive as far as that speed guy than a Tajay Spears, but still a little bit of a redundant backfield. But I think they can really complement each other pretty well. Both very versatile backs who can get it done in the passing game, get it done in the run game, and they're both explosive guys who can really put a big mark in the game and change the landscape of it. So I was just surprised by it. I didn't see that happening. It was our first move, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's what to me was most shocking about it, is that was the first move. That was like the first thing to come out.
The very first move.
Yeah.
I think of running backs were like a few of the first moves. So like even Swift went to the Bears, and I think that was like the first one.
Yeah.
So us being one of those.
Yeah, some running backs was like going off first. Yeah.
So us being one of those teams that actually will get a running back when, of course, I think every team at this point mostly is going to need a committee. It's like, it's not surprising that way.
Yeah.
I guess it was just surprising to see who it was. But even a year two, Tony Pollard coming back from his injury, I think is going to be huge, and I think he's going to have a more successful.
But when you saw he signed, what was your first thought though?
Why? It was why are we signing a running back?
No, that was your first thought.
That was my first thought.
Do you want to know my first thought?
What?
Derrick Henry's not coming back.
I kind of knew when Pollard got signed. I was like,
Yeah, the King's gone.
I was with you. I was like, why? I texted you as soon as it happened. Like,
why are we doing this? Like what is the point?
Well,
Is this how we're gonna be spending our money?
Yeah. That's what I was like, if this is
Are we getting 8 more running backs or what?
I was like, if this is how we're going to be spending our money.
Some things never change. We're just going to run all the time.
That's what I was thinking. Like, oh my gosh, we're getting another running back. We have Spears.
No.
I knew we had like an injury history while getting drafted, but like this is year 2. Like, give him a chance.
I think it's just more about draft capital and like using it on a running back when they could get one for like a decent price. And then someone like Pollard is similar. He's similar to Tajay, but it also means we're like unpredictable. They can both run between the tackles. They both can catch passes, and they're both explosive. So,
Miss
yeah, they're home run threats.
for sure.
So, like, no matter who's on the field, maybe they're both on the field at the same time.
And which is very possible.
Yeah.
One could be both in the backfield. One could be in the slide backfield. We've seen them line up on the outside before. Like they're very versatile.
Yeah, I mean that's just so I maybe questioned it a little bit, but the shocker was like, oh my gosh, and was definitely Calvin Ridley. And the reason being was because like the whole talk, everybody, even the national media and all the top reporters were all talking about he's going to go back to Jacksonville, 95% sure. And if he goes somewhere else, it's going to be New England. Like they kind of mentioned New England, and it was like all of a sudden, like I think Ian Rappaport was literally on TV talking, and then his phone buzzed off that the Titans were getting Calvin Ridley. Like they weren't even talking about that. There was no smoke with that. There was nothing. It was like we were silent assassins. We were just like real quiet about it,
Which is cool. Which
was nasty.
Yeah.
Rand was cooking. Because we're all tripping like, no, we got Pollard, that's it. We got a center. What are we going to do? You know, what's all this? Nothing's happening. And then Rand was cooking the whole time.
Yeah.
And so that was the most surprising.
23 is a number. It's not that bad. You know, they're all flexible deals, what they've done. Like, you know, so if we have to get out of it at some point.
I mean, I think after like 2 years.
I mean, it's not that big of a deal. And we needed another receiver.
But
dude
is still in his prime.
Yeah, like he's missed 2 years. He's 29 years old. You know, of course, year in Jacksonville wasn't as great as he wanted it to be, but like he still showed some really good stuff on tape. He still has a lot of stuff to offer on the field. A great pairing with DeAndre Hopkins. Really good for Traylon Burks just to have some more vets in the room for all those other receivers too. And if we also draft a guy, which I hope we do, it's a really good receiver room for him too. So.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that was probably the biggest surprise, and so definitely hands down for me. Favorite move. What was your favorite move that the Titans made?
Favorite move, second favorite move was Cushenberry, just to give him a little bit more love. Graded out super well, huge body. That Broncos offensive line was also pretty good, I think, last season. You know, Russ had his shortcomings, but I did like that offensive line.
He had a better year last year.
But. Yeah, it's a better year last year, but he still had his shortcomings as just a quarterback.
Still
didn't throw over the middle of the field.
Why you keep saying he's short?
That's crazy.
Why you keep doing that?
But I did love that.
He had his shortcomings.
I love the signing. Needed a center, and it's a much different center than what we had in Brewer too. So it's just a nice difference that way. Also, he went to the Dolphins, which is a very weird signing to me. Aaron Brewer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he went to the Dolphins. It's weird. I just don't think that's what they need, especially when you got Tua back there.
Well, we're gonna, Tua's gonna have
athletic though, but like
Tua's gonna have a center throwing it over his head. And Levis is going to have a center throwing it in the dirt. Like, why are you throwing it in the dirt? Well, because I've been snapping to Russ for.
I think my favorite signing would have to be Snead. Obviously, it was a trade and an extension at that point. But
we're on the same brain. Yeah.
I just think he had an amazing year. Wasn't talked about enough until he got to the playoffs, and people really were able to see what he was doing and. He locked people up, but he's also just a super versatile player as well. Great in press. He can come off the edge. He's super smart. He's always in those positions to really make an impact on the game, and that's what we all saw. He made an impact on the game every single game.
He shuts down one whole side of the field.
Yeah,
he literally. It's like there's like borders built up, and the quarterback can't even throw over there.
Yeah, which is huge. If you have a quarterback that can shut down one side of the field, Cheeto maybe not has had a great past year, but he showed some really.
But he was coming off injury,
yeah.
So I think he's going to be better.
Yeah, he showed some really high end, I think, cornerback 2 skills, even like a low end cornerback 1 in the
And
past.
he's a physical guy too.
Yeah, so and big guy, physical guy, so that'd be a really nice pairing. We also got McCreary in the slot, so that'd be good too. But like
with Wilson.
Yeah.
The DC.
Yeah, so obviously with that's just perfect. That's exactly what you want to see. Even when you look at like Titans comments, even a lot of people talk about Farley and hopefully getting him back in the mix of things. But we can talk about that another time.
Who loved that draft pick?
Another time. But I think L'Jarius Sneed is a huge get for us. It allows us to be a little bit more versatile. Even seeing what that Mike McDonald defense was able to do. Maybe even if when it seems like this, we have this coaching staff that wants to put players in this successful position. Seeing what they did when he was over with Spags and Kansas City, bringing some of over some of that stuff too. So like even just using him in different parts of the field, shutting down the field sometimes, it'd be a matchup based thing. Putting him in different spots, maybe putting Cheeto on the number one guy, whatever it looks like, or bracketing a guy and letting him be a little bit flexible, or shutting down a receiver number two. Like there's so much you can do with a guy who can do pretty much everything on the field, tackle well, make huge plays, shut down receivers, whatever it looks like that way. So I think this really puts the defense over the edge. He's 27 years old. Guy ran a 4.2 coming out of college. Like he can run, and he can make plays. So I think this is probably my favorite signing, because I think he can really just put a defense over the top when you already have really good players around him, really good coaching staff. So this is perfect.
Well, when I saw, obviously he was a good cornerback before. I didn't care about any numbers or any grades. When I saw him put Tyreek Hill in the dirt, in the dirt.
Yeah, when I say great impress, is exactly where my mind went to. Yeah.
Like, that's not only like quick feet, that's quick hands. Because to even be able to touch Tyreek off the line is almost impossible. And he literally buried him and then buried him again. So, like, and Tyreek even, like, come out and said something about it, on one of the videos. He was in, like, a podcast, and he's like, yeah,
he got him.
He told me up. Yeah, he had to do that. Literally, like, that was my favorite move. I think, we're starting to see some of the things on offense kind of take shape. And so one of the concerns and where we lack depth and really just good players was the secondary.
I mean, it's been like that for years.
Yeah,
too.
and then we've really struggled. Whether we've had a good guy or he gets injured or something like that. It just seems like there's rotational. It's just like a.
Well, like we've drafted a corner like every year.
Yeah, like the 7th round, like out of Marshall. Like
no, but what? There's Fulton, McCreary, Farley,
Fulton and McCreary.
Drafting those guys.
2nd rounders, both of them,
Yeah.
And then. Yeah, I mean, it seems like there was always something. Obviously, Fulton, I felt like could have been a really good cornerback 1 or 2. He's just constantly soft. Soft. What do you call him?
You call him soft?
Soft. He is soft. Hamstring injuries, guys. I'm trying to get this.
Okay,
He's soft.
like
Yes,
prone.
he's soft. You need to get back out there with that pulled hammy.
Oh Lord.
No, but he was always injured, hamstrings, whatever.
Yeah.
And then there was that whole thing with Vrabel, like he's injured, he's not available. Fulton's like, I'm fine. Like, so then you don't know if he's in the doghouse or what. So like you had all that, but anyways, that didn't work out. He goes somewhere else, and then you got McCreary, who was he's a slot guy for sure. But he was having to play outside a lot, out of position. Now that when he's in the slot, he's so much better. And so now you've just kind of solidified those 3 cornerback spots. And then you got Amani Hooker as a safety. And he can play whatever you want him to play.
Yeah, love it.
He can play in the box. He can play free. Whatever. It doesn't matter. He can do it. And so now you can kind of be flexible on the next safety you bring in. And so, that's starting to look really exciting. And especially when you have a guy like L'Jarius Sneed that could literally lock down one side. But, I mean, it's just super exciting. Obviously, Calvin Ridley signing is awesome, too. Least favorite move, though. Least favorite move. You want me to go first on this one?
Yeah.
Least favorite move for me is, I don't want to say signing Kenneth Murray. I don't want to do him like that. But I was more upset about not being able to re-sign Azeez and Danico.
Yeah.
Like as far as like the moves that were least favorite, letting them walk, and not only walk but then go to Houston. That was kind of upsetting. Just because of what Danico, man, what he can do. Like he is just, he is crazy good.
I mean,
he's strong, fast, physical. He affects the quarterback almost every play.
Super effective up front, even a little older, but still just produce at a high level.
Yeah.
For that position, especially. So for him to walk out, that was tough. Of course, and we had Tart walk out and get released, mid-season. So just the depth right there at that position, just a little little rough.
So now, you're looking at you're probably gonna have to draft somebody or sign someone in the second wave of free agency, maybe after the draft or something. So you've got all that, and then Kenneth Murray, he's not been that good, and he's a crazy athlete, but he's just not been that good, in LA. And so, but I'm trying to think, okay, maybe they have a vision for him. Maybe Denard Wilson has a vision for him. But like, kill me now if him and Jack Gibbons is the starters opening day. Like, just kill me right this second. And if he's wearing a green dot, or if Jack Gibbons is wearing a green dot, no, thank you.
Poor Jack.
But that was probably my least favorite move.
I mean, honestly, for me, there's not. I mean, I don't want to copy you or anything. There's not like a lot of moves that I'm like super upset with. Like,
Exactly.
even getting Joseph Day, who like has had some really good flashes, over the years. Still a really good body. He's approaching his 30s now at this point. I love bringing in Rudolph, nice little backup quarterback, who's shown some really good stuff here recently for the Steelers, being able to fill in a starter role right there. Like, I enjoyed that move. Getting Cushenberry, we talked about that. Calvin Ridley, I'm gonna say from this perspective, I was upset with it at first. Going more through the draft process and just as the weeks have gone, past free agency and really getting closer to the draft. Like, initially, I was like, man, now we're not getting a receiver. We get some 29-year-old guy who like had a rough year in Jacksonville. So I think from that perspective, initially I was a little down on the move. I really wanted a receiver, Malik Neighbors, whatever it looks like right there, Marvin Harrison, Odunze, whatever. I want one of those guys to fall. So I think initially I was a little down on it, but I feel a lot better now. And even at this point, like, we can still go get a receiver if the right one lands to us too. So I don't think I'm not super down on a lot of moves. I don't want to do a cop-out or anything like that. But, Kenneth Murray, of course, still hopefully optimistic about that one. Super athletic guy. I really liked him coming out as well. Has a lot of speed. And I think at the linebacker position, speed is super necessary for also putting a defense over the top. If you have linebackers who can move, that's really going to change the defense and really put pressure on people, especially in the zone game, getting on the outside, getting to perimeters that way. So if that move can work out, perfect. But if he's just what he's been pretty much for his whole career, it's going to be rough for us in the front seven, and going to put a lot of pressure on our DBs, all that, or not DBs, but our defensive line that way. So we'll see.
So let's grade first wave of free agency. What letter grade would you give the Titans?
Give the Titans? I'd probably go with a. I don't want to sound like a homer or anything, too, man.
I know. I'm right there with you.
We've addressed some needs. We've addressed pretty much every positional need. Now, how do you feel about those players? It's obviously going to change the grade, but they've tried. They've spent money. They've addressed some real needs at cornerback, receiver, getting some offensive linemen in, just getting more depth in those really needy spots. So I think I'm going to go with the B+ for right now. I was really close to like an A-, I think, maybe, but that's just too much right now. I'm going to go with the B+.
I'm going A.
Okay.
So I guess I'm more of a homer than you.
All right.
Obviously, it'd be an A+ if they could have re-signed Danico. Mm-hmm. I think that would have kind of put me up there.
Or Azeez.
Or Azeez. But we got the best center, the best corner, and the best receiver on the market. So, I mean...
Maybe on the market. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, on the market. The ones that were actually going to hit free agency... we got the best.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, like Snead, obviously we traded for him. He was franchise tag, so he wasn't a free agent, but we still landed him.
Yeah.
And side note, there was all this talk about him going to the Colts, and
we're still in people.
I'd have been really mad if he went to the Colts.
Stealing guys from our division rivals. That was nice of that.
But yeah, we still these guys from division rivals, and
maybe I should bump it up to that much.
So it sounds good. Yeah, sounds good. Looks good. I like it. A for me. Ask me halfway
Nate,
through the season.
What do you? I almost call you Nate. What do you give him? That's great. I don't know why you're Nate. What do you give him?
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. B+, A-. I think a lot of the moves we made filled holes that we needed to fill.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of I would say, higher of an A if we could have got somebody better than Kenneth Murray. Don't hate the guy. I don't. But if we could have gotten somebody else, if we could have kept Aziz, I would have loved to have kept Aziz, or especially Danico. If we had kept Danico, I would have felt a lot better. But
Patrick Queen, man. Jordan Brooks is out there. I can't remember any other guys now. But
Patrick Queen was high on my list of if we get this high, I mean,
may do backflips.
Which is insane. A lot of division rival type stuff because he went to the Steelers after playing in Baltimore. So it's just like no one cares.
No one cares anymore.
Yeah, and you're gonna see these guys, which it's fine. I think it makes it a lot better actually. Yeah. So I'm all for it.
Yeah. So let's ask this question: the Titans moves, everything that's happened, coaching, everything. These Titans moves. What does this reveal about their view on Levis and competing in the division? What do you think their view of Levis is?
So honestly, I think Levis didn't have like the C.J. Stroud type of rookie year. Like that's obviously not.
Didn't have a C.J. Stroud type of offensive line.
Yeah, but still like
they tried.
Didn't have the Bryce Young type of rookie year either though. So like.
Or Anthony Richardson.
He played 4 games and
4 games got hurt.
But even in those 4 games, he looked really good too. Like I was a big
He looked decent.
Anthony Richardson guy coming out.
Yeah,
he's actually my QB1. Fun fact: QB1, Anthony Richardson was mine, and then Stroud was number 2. I had Bryce Young 3. Feels like a win.
Where was Levis? Don't listen to anything this guy says.
No, he's QB4. It's not bad. And there's much more to figure out.
There's only 4, but
there's only 4.
I'm the top guy.
What are you supposed to do? What do you do? But no, I think Levis has shown a lot. I think he showed a lot his first year, just being an intense guy, showing a lot of passion for the game. Really feeling like he can be a leader for that team. Obviously, I talked about it earlier in the pod, just having all these traits of a QB1, a top 10 guy, where big arm, can move. Can work in the pocket, stay in the pocket, can make plays outside the pocket, out of structure. Like I think you see all that on the tape. You see a guy that wants to be aggressive, and I think in this league, if you want to, be successful, if you want to be one of those top QBs, you also have to, be aggressive on the field and make plays down the field. And we saw him connect with, Hopkins. So what is it going to be like when you have Ridley out there too to space the field a little bit more? So I feel like on the film you see all of those traits. I feel like Callahan and that staff will see all those traits, so you feel a little bit comfortable, coming into the year with him as your guy, but also knowing who you are as a staff, what you believe in, where you've been, what you've learned along the way, who you've worked with already. We talked about Peyton Manning, even freaking Tim Tebow, and being able to design an offense around him and his strengths. Like that should give you confidence as a fan base, should give you confidence as a coach, and it gives confidence to Will Levis as a QB who wants to, be successful and win. So, like, I think it says a lot about, how they feel about him and how they feel they can work with him. Obviously, throwing for different arm angles, just being really talented himself. But obviously, too, wanting to make a big splash this year. Division's wide open. I still feel like even before the, Texans trades or moves they made, I feel like this division is still wide open. So, like, let's make these win now moves. Let's put Levis in a position to succeed. Let's give him these weapons. Let's get better on the offensive line. So we actually know when we get to that point, we're like, hey, he's the guy or he's not the guy. So at that point, like you just can't go the other way. You can't be complacent or stagnant. You have to go up and you have to push him that way. Because if he's the guy, he's gonna show up for that team. And if he's not, you're gonna know pretty quickly too. I feel like.
Yeah, you have to.
You can't just sit around and do nothing.
Yeah,
you just can't.
You can't. You can't have $80 million in cap space and not go help your quarterback who's a rookie.
Right.
It's on a rookie deal.
Yeah, you got to be smart with that money, of course. Be smart with that money. Be able to stretch it out. Get out of deals if you need to later down the road. If you figure out that he's not the guy, but like you got to spend.
But like I truly believe they believe in Levis, and I think that they still, as professionals, have to evaluate. You still have to evaluate. You're never done evaluating. And so they want to get the best players around him so that if he fails, it's just he can't get the job done.
Yeah. You don't want to leave any room for doubt, which is what so many of these teams, they get stuck in. It's like, is he the guy? Is he not the guy? We haven't built our team around him very well too, so it's hard to really evaluate him or give him a fair evaluation unless he just is out there looking like Zach Wilson or something, which that was depressing too. So.
Yeah, and I kind of thought his rookie season, which was only, we didn't see a full season of it, but I'd hate to do comps, but it really reminded me of Josh Allen in his rookie year. Had flashes of the arm, missed some throws, was in a little inaccurate. I thought Levis had surprised me with the touch that he had because he actually threw some really good touch passes. Some of them were too touchy. I'm sure Tajay Spears was like, hey, bro, too touchy.
He has a few clubs in the bag for sure.
Yeah, but I think he's a cerebral guy. Like, I really think he's smart. I think he really diagnoses stuff. When he makes a mistake, he wants to know why he makes it, and then he wants to try to fix it. So that's a guy you can work with, and Brian Callahan, I think, will be able to help him with those things. And when you're a cerebral guy and you're smart and you can see stuff on the field, whether it's pre-snap, then you're going to be a lot quicker in your thinking and your reacting. And so now you got guys who are on the outside that can get open quick. It makes things a lot easier when you're a quarterback and you're trying to diagnose a defense, when you've got a guy that can get open. Last year, it's not like D-Hop can create a whole bunch of space and separation, but he knows that if I throw this up to him, he's probably going to come down with it, and he did that multiple times. And obviously the debut was one of those times where D-Hop went off, and I don't think he'd scored a touchdown all year, and then he had 4 in that game, or 3. I think he had 3 in that game, and then NWI caught the other one. So Levis threw 4 passing touchdowns in that game.
And you want to see a quarterback like that not be afraid to
and I think he's fearless.
make plays.
I don't think he's conservative at all. I think he's fearless, and I think he's going to do whatever he can to win. So I think for the moves they made, I think they believe in Levis, and they want to do their best they can to surround him with weapons. They're trying to win the division this year. And from the lack of moves that the Colts and the Jags made.
At worst, we're number 2, right?
Right. And I think it's really us in Houston kind of seem to be countering each of. Houston signed 90 defensive linemen. I mean, they signed every defensive lineman that was seriously.
Yeah.
So, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, we didn't get some of these guys. Well, they're going to have to cut somebody, But it seemed like everything they did, they were countering us. So we trade for L'Jarius Sneed, they go and trade for Stephon Diggs. Everything seems to be a counter back and forth. And I think those are the ones that we're.
We'll just go over the Texans real quick just to talk about they bring in Danielle Hunter on a 2-year deal. I think mostly guaranteed at that point. Really good edge to counteract Will Anderson, which is going to be tough and makes you think maybe we're going to have to get a first offensive lineman in the first round. We're going to have to get one of those solidified guys. Feels like I like the trade back option, by the way. Mm-hmm. And then Denico Autry, Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, bringing in Jeff Okudah, getting Aziz. They're really attacking this defensive side of the ball, bringing the defensive lineman. I can't remember his name. It looks like Foley. Futakowski? Whatever. I can't
Kawasaki.
Anyways, bringing in C.J. Henderson, some guys that missed in the draft, with some guys with some athletic ability and potential that way. So defensive, they're going after it. They got a lot of good guys over there right now. Aziz, Christian Harris is really nice. Toa is really good. That linebacker core is nice. D'Amico Ryans is trying to get his defense right, essentially is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they're trying to do everything they can to, get better and be in contention for a Super Bowl. I feel like we're trying to do the best we can to do the same thing.
I feel like we're just kind of a year behind them in it.
The draft is going to be so important for us, and I really feel like trading back. We don't have to talk about all that now, but trading back would just give us more assets and more room to fill up some of those needs that we.
Not trading back from 7.
We've done the mock draft, Brett. We've done the mock draft plenty of times, and I feel like
the only way
every time the draft has worked out, is when you draft or when you trade back and you bring in some more assets. You can get an inside linebacker, your defensive lineman, or a receiver in the second round.
We will talk draft for the next episode
We already talked draft next episode.
because we're about to get off on a tangent.
I can't wait.
We're gonna get off on a tangent here, but yeah. So I mean, Houston made a lot of moves. They were aggressive. The Titans were, and both of those teams have rookie quarterbacks, and they're going to do everything they can to load up the roster and go try to win now before they have to extend those guys. And so I think, the Texans kind of shocked everybody last year with how well C.J. Stroud played. So they were, playoff. They were in the playoffs and won a game, and now I think they want to try to take the jump to Super Bowl contenders. And we're obviously missed the playoffs, only won 6 games, and we're wanting to try to be playoff contenders. We want to try to make the playoffs, and I think they believe that we can. And I truly believe we can if everything works the way it's supposed to. We draft well, and I think that we're going to be set. So. But man, there was just a lot that we needed to catch up on in this episode, and so we kind of covered a lot. So, any else that you need to say, talk about?
No, man, I think it's just been such a fun off season so far, just for the NFL all around.
Yeah.
There's been a lot to keep up with, whether it's just free agency, different trades, different moves to be made, teams not making moves and just seeing them stalemate, and it's like, what are you doing?
The Cowboys,
the Jaguars,
Cowboys fans
bring in Gabe Davis, that's great. I don't know,
he's nasty, bro.
Yeah. So it's just like, I think it's been a really fun off season, and we still have so much more to go with a few weeks left and until the NFL draft, with really anything that can happen. There's been so much speculation for that draft itself. I'm just really looking forward to the next few weeks and getting some more podcasts out, just talking a little bit more about what's to be expected, but it's been fun. It's been really fun.
Yeah, obviously the last few years have been trying times as Titans fans, but
we had some really good times there too.
Yeah,
man. Like we went to a few games for the past few years, had some great moments against the Bills, 49ers. Saw some awesome games there. It's been rough here recently, but there's also been some really good moments to really hang your hat on too.
Yeah, but exciting times coming up with just the new regime and just a change of philosophy, and so excited about that, and excited about, obviously, in a few years we'll have a new stadium and all kinds of cool stuff. So Nashville's the best city in the country, and so yeah, I said it.
Okay.
And you know the reason why?
Why?
Because of the Titans. All right. Because of the Titans. So, not because Broadway. Don't throw chairs off of roofs, okay, people?
Yeah, so
That's our public service announcement for today.
But we definitely appreciate everyone listening and watching. This will be on YouTube, all the other streaming platforms as far as Spotify, all that good stuff. We are still in talks of naming the podcast, working on all that other logistical stuff with logos, whatever it looks like that way. A few times here, as soon as we can get some more equipment, Luke will be in, and you'll get to hear him talk a little bit about some Titans football and the rest of the NFL as well. But super excited just to keep this going. It was a fun first podcast, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot to look forward to just with this season and getting this going throughout the off season. So.
All right. See you guys next week.
Bye.